Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone here in our City Council chambers, as well as our listening audience at WCBU. I'd like to welcome the audience watching by cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear. Councilmember Gordon Young.
Present.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Euler.
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Vopula.
Present.
And Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
We have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please join me, everyone, and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
We are at proclamations.
We have three proclamations tonight. The first one recognizes National Boating Safety Week. This proclamation was requested by Public Affairs Officer Daryl Hafner from the Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla. He is not present, but I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas during National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waters responsibly. And whereas safe boating begins with preparation, the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents. And whereas on average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, 75% of these are fatalities caused by drowning. Whereas the majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their safe life jackets. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby proclaim May 20th through May 27th, 2023, as National Safe Boating Week in Peoria, Illinois. Our next proclamation recognizes the 50th anniversary of the Peoria County Genealogical Society. We have the president of that society, Ms. Kim Hanks, and the publicity director, E.J. Hines. Welcome. Whereas tonight we acknowledge the Peoria County Genealogical Society, PCGS, which is celebrating 50 years of promoting genealogy and family history in Peoria County. Whereas the Peoria County, I hope I'm saying that right, Genealogical Society was established in the spring of 1973 by a small group of Peoria County residents who shared an avid interest in family history. Shortly thereafter, they established bylaws, appointed officers, and attracted 75 charter members. By the end of its first year, they had over 130 members. Whereas today, PCGS is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization run by a group of dedicated volunteers. With a membership totaling almost 250 individuals from across the nation, they share a mission to identify, preserve, and share the heritage of Peoria County, Illinois ancestors. And whereas PCGS members are an active and engaged community of family historians with monthly educational programs, special interest groups, a newsletter, 2 annual editions of its Prairie Roots magazine, and a substantial archive of records, files, and publications, both on its website and in its collection housed in the local history and genealogy department of the Peoria Public Main Library. Whereas on Thursday, June 8th, the Peoria County Genealogical Society will celebrate its 50th anniversary with an open house and program that includes a keynote speech by past Peorian and noted genealogical librarian Susan Kaufman. And whereas this 50th anniversary celebration will be offered free of charge and is open to the public at the Peoria Public Library's North Branch on June 8th from 5:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. and on Zoom. More information is available at peoriacountygenealogy.org. Now, therefore, I, Reed Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby acknowledge and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Peoria County Genealogical Society. Welcome.
I just want to say thanks for having us here, and thanks for the proclamation, and we're looking forward for our 50th celebration on June 8th. And then the day after that, on June 9th, we'll be having a tour of that local history and genealogical room over at the main branch library. The 50th celebration's up at the North Branch. If you guys haven't already, check out our website, Peoria, I think she mentioned it, PeoriaGenealogicalSociety.org, and we're on Facebook. That's all I have to say. Kim, would you like to add anything?
Thank you. Congratulations. Our final proclamation celebrates Poppy Days, and accepting from the American Legion Post number 2 is Phil Burnett, Bill Davies, and Dave Hansen. Gentlemen, are you? Oh, there they are. They're all suited up. Whereas Poppy Days are a time to honor those who have fallen, while also representing a sign of hope and renewal for the living. The poppy flower is worn as a symbol to honor the dead, while also representing a sign of hope and renewal for the living. All the poppy flowers that are distributed among communities are assembled with pride by America's righteous disabled veterans. Whereas from the battlefields of World War I, weary soldiers brought home the memory of a barren landscape transformed by wild poppies, red as the blood that had soaked the soil. By that miracle of nature, the spirit of their lost comrades lived on. The poppy became a symbol of the sacrifice of lives in war and represented the hope that none had died in vain. Whereas the American Legion Auxiliary poppy has continued to bloom for the casualties of all wars, its petals of paper bound together for veterans by veterans, reminding America each year that the men and women who have served and died for their country deserve to be remembered. And whereas identifying the poppy as a memorial flower can be attributed to Moyna Michael, when in 1918 she was so moved by the poem In Flanders Fields that she wrote this response: "That blood of heroes never dies, but lends a luster for the red of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders Fields." Whereas she purchased a bouquet of poppies and asked her colleagues to wear them as a tribute to the fallen. Later, she advocated for the adoption of the poppy as the national symbol of sacrifice. Whereas the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary unite in their efforts to keep the memory alive of those who perished while serving, in addition to honoring those who served. All donations go to the Illinois Veterans Homes in Manteno, Danville, Quincy, LaSalle, and gifts to the Yanks. Now, therefore, I, Reed Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby acknowledge May 26, 27, and 28 as Poppy Days in Peoria, Illinois.
Wow, thank you, Mayor. What a
you.
historic background you presented here. Dave Hanson's unable to be with us today, so I am Jim Ulrich. I will say that we have 3 days where we are passing out poppies. We do not sell them. We have a can, and should anybody want to donate money, we'd be more than glad to take it. We take all the money and we divide it up evenly between the 4 veteran homes in Quincy, Danville, LaSalle, and Matino. We will be at 6 schools, 6 stores, 2 Walmarts, one on University, one on Allen Road, 2 Schnucks, one on Knoxville, one on University, and 2 Hy-Vee, one on Sheridan and one Orange Prairie. We'll be there from 10 to 6. So should you see any of us with poppies, stop by, pick up one. Should you decide to wear it, please place it on your left side over your heart. And thank you again for having us and giving us this proclamation day.
Thank you for your service, gentlemen. Madam Clerk,
We are at the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach,
I move to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held on May 9th, 2023 as printed.
okay. Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the town portion of the agenda. 23-174 is a request from the town officials to approve the creation of the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency as required by new Illinois law.
Trustee Grebb, do you want to initiate this?
Thank you. Trustees, as you'll recall, we deferred this. We need some legal background coming from our town attorney, John Redling Schaefer, who is here tonight to tell us why the need for the deferral and what our plan is going forward.
Thank you, Trustee Gray. Good evening to those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. My name is John Redling Schaefer, the township attorney. I do not attend every meeting, but I'm invited when we have unique issues or questions in front of the town board in which you're sitting right now. Tonight's township agenda does have 2 items that I came to discuss and answer any questions you may have. The one was deferred from the earlier meeting to actually allow for me this opportunity to talk with you on both together. These relate to the Decennial Committees on Local Government Efficiency Act. All right? That is a new law that was passed by the Illinois General Assembly in 22 and signed by the governor also that same year. There was a slight amendment that doesn't really impact us in 2023. We are required to follow it, plain and simple. This is not a committee the township officials were looking to create. However, with this mandate, the township officials welcome the chance to share with you, because guess what, you'll be members of this committee by state statute, as well as the public, exactly the good work that they do while exploring what they may be able to do more efficiently and talk some ideas through that. So some questions that I have been asked already that I want to try to address now, but I will address any others. What does the law require? It requires the formation of this committee, this efficiency committee, by June 10th, which is why you see item 1 on your agenda. Who is on this committee? Well, the membership shall include the elected members or appointed members of the governing board of the governmental unit, you guys, at least 2 residents within the territory of the township in this instance, and any chief executive officer or other officer of the governmental unit, which will include the township officials. This is a rather large committee, but this is what the state law was crafted to say. Now, that being said, how many times do we have to meet? Well, the statute talks about at least 3 meetings over the next 18 months that culminates in a report that we put together for filing with the county on what we have determined as a committee. Tentatively, we are thinking that with such a large group that's already meeting on these Tuesday nights, this committee would likely meet maybe 5 o'clock before council/board meetings, since most of us will be here anyway. The specific tasks include studying local efficiencies, reporting recommendations regarding those efficiencies, and increased accountability in which the government unit is located. The duties will, specifically include the study of our powering statutes, our ordinances, rules, procedures, powers, jurisdiction, shared services, intergovernmental agreements, and interrelationships with other governmental units and the state. It is a lengthy mandate, but at the same time, again, a welcome opportunity to share with everyone what the township does. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the ultimate challenge for us is to generate that report. I'm prepared to work with the committee on the issuance of such a report. And in terms of tonight's specific agendas, the first is to create the committee, which we are mandated by state law to do. The second is to appoint the 2 public members as required by state law. Now, in front of you on that second agenda item are Supervisor Leary's recommendations, which matches what I believe to be the intent of the statute. I have checked, here's the thing. This law was written that did not contemplate Peoria Township and other unique townships that have a supervisor and a board chair, because it talks about the chair of the board making this appointment. Well, in 99.999% of the townships in Illinois, that's the supervisor. And so, again, in front of you are Supervisor Leary's recommendations, but I think it is still consistent with the intent of the statute to act on item 2 as well. In checking with other townships similarly situated, there has been deference, and it's also consistent with the recommendation of the township officials of Illinois, which is the statewide association. So as Township Council, I'm certainly prepared to answer any questions you may have, but I recommend passage of these items tonight to comply with state law so we can meet those deadlines.
Council, who chairs the decennial committee, and then what is the frequency of the meetings?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the meetings first. Each committee shall meet at least 3 times, okay? There is no mandate as to how often that, some townships are meeting 3 months in a row. Some are meeting maybe every 2 or 3 months. Some are meeting maybe every 6 months. The point being is that we have kind of an 18-month window to be done with our business. And then we go away, the committee goes away for 10 years, and then it automatically forms again well, that would be June of 2033, if you want to do that math, which is crazy to think about. In terms of the chair, I believe, Chair Ali, I believe you would chair that meeting with, all of us here together in more of a collaborative spirit, but someone, again, with our unique situation, I'm trying to interpret a statute that wasn't really written for our situation. In developing an agenda, my recommendation would be for you to work with Supervisor Leary to maybe craft where we want to go, and the other township officials, to be fair. But given your ordinary role as chair of the town board, I think it would be appropriate for you to lead us through these meetings.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm getting the impression that this statute refers only to townships. Is that correct?
So, good question. The definition says all entities that levy taxes and are also units of local government as defined in Section 1 of Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution. So there are others, presumably school districts and potentially fire districts and things like that. But primarily this is a pretty unique standard that a lot of townships have kind of been thrust to the forefront on this.
This does not include the city of Peoria?
It does not.
That wasn't clear to me, so thank you.
No, it's a great question. Yep. So this will be a Peoria Township specific task.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Any other questions from any other trustees? Trustee Graham?
Chairman, I move to approve the creation of the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency as required by Illinois law.
Seconded by Trustee Gordon Young. Any additional questions, commentary? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
23-172 is an appointment by Chair Ali and Supervisor Leary to the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency of the following public members with a request to concur of Yvonne Fleming and Irene Lewis Wembley.
Trustee Graham?
Yes. Chairman, I move to approve the appointments as outlined.
Seconded by Trustee Allen. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We have one public hearing. 23-175 is a public hearing regarding the annexation of 12610 North Allen Road, Dunlap, Illinois.
May I have a motion to open the public hearing? Moved by Councilmember Euler, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Is there anyone present that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the annexation of 12610 North Allen Road in Dunlap, Illinois? The address is Dunlap, Illinois, but it is within the city of Peoria. Is that right? No, not yet. I'm sorry. Correct. Not yet. Again, is there anyone here that would like to speak regarding the annexation of 126610 North Allen Road, Dunlap, Illinois? And last, is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the annexation of 12610 North Allen Road in Dunlap, Illinois? May I have a motion to close the public hearing? Moved by Councilmember Kelly, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 23-176 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to approve a settlement in Verniak Fluker as independent administrator of the estate of David Smith versus City of Peoria et al. 23-177 is a communication with a request to approve $50,000 in matching funds for the Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant application. 23-178 is a communication with a request to approve vendors for 2023 street maintenance materials to secure set pricing for the current maintenance season rather than market pricing. 23-179 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution approving an annexation agreement for the property located at 12610 North Allen Road, Dunlap, Illinois. And this requires a 2/3 vote of corporate authorities, 8 votes. 23-180 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance rezoning property from Class R4 Single Family Residential District to a Class CN Neighborhood Commercial District for the property located at 3006 West Garden Street, 3008 West Garden Street, and 3012 West Garden Street, Peoria, Illinois. 23-181 is a communication with request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending existing special use ordinance number 17543 in a Class R4 single-family residential district for townhomes to include a short-term rental for the property located at 824 West Moss Avenue, Peoria, Illinois. 23-182 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R3 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 4733 North Edgebrook Drive, Peoria, Illinois. 23-183 is a communication with request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R4 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 4016 North Ashton Avenue, Peoria, Illinois. 23-184 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Knoxville Wine and Spirits, doing business as River City Grill, 3504B North Prospect Road, contingent upon the issuance of all appropriate permits and a certificate of occupancy, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 23-185 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Champs of Peoria, Inc., doing business as Bloody Mary Brunch Company at 708 West Glen Avenue, contingent upon the issuance of all appropriate permits, a certificate of occupancy, and with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 23-186 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption with retail sale of alcohol with a subclass 1 4 a.m. closing hours for Richards Under Main, Inc., doing business as Richards Under Main at 311 Main Street, contingent upon the issuance of all appropriate permits, a certificate of occupancy, and with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 23-187 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption with retail sale of alcohol for Indian Taka of Chicago, LLC, doing business as Indian Taka at 7815 North Knoxville Avenue, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 23-188 are appointments by Mayor Ali to the CDBG Public Service Advisory Commission with a request to concur of Quentin Campbell and Al Kuzan. 23-189 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Downtown Advisory Commission with a request to concur of Ryan Shearer. And 23-190 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Springdale Cemetery Management Authority with a request to concur of Sid Ruckriegel. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Graham?
Yes, Mayor Lee, I'd like to pull 23-181.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 23179, please.
Thank you. Any other items to remove? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda moved by Councilmember Velpula, seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach? Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
23-179 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution approving an annexation agreement for the property located at 12610 North Allen Road, Dunlap, Illinois, and this requires a 2/3 vote of corporate authorities for 8 votes.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a matter of clarification. We're talking here about a mailing address, correct? We are not talking about a property that is within the village of Dunlap.
That is correct. This is Banner School.
Yes.
And Banner School is in the unincorporated area. And the reason that they're coming in asking for an annexation into the city is their septic system has failed. And they need to connect to the public sewer system. And the only way that we would allow that is for them to sign an annexation agreement with us. And we're allowing them to connect to the sewer system right away so that they can continue to have the school operate and be functional. And then the annexation agreement will last for 20 years. And if we ever become contiguous to them, there's one parcel between the city of Peoria and Banner School. If that parcel annexes into the city, then Banner School would annex into the city. If after 20 years that doesn't happen, the agreement expires and they will still remain outside of the city.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure it was known especially to the public, that we're not annexing part of the village of Dunlap.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will move to approve.
For a second, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
23-181 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending existing special use ordinance number 17543 in a Class R4 single-family residential district for townhomes to include a short-term rental for the property located at 824 West Moss Avenue, Peoria, Illinois.
Councilmember Graham?
Thank you. I would like this request for a special use deferred until our next regularly scheduled council meeting of June 13th, 2023, to allow neighbors to discuss this proposed special use with the petitioner.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business. 23-191 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request to approve the sole source purchase of one speed trailer, Smart 18 HP Plus, and 4 portable pole mount radar displays, PMD 12 Plus tablet for console from Custom Signals, Inc., in the amount of $27,681, and this requires a 2/3 vote of council members voting, not less than 6 votes.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the police chief to provide some clarity for you here on this purchase.
And, just before you do that, Council,
So on these items that are marked with 2/3 vote, but not less than 6, for tonight, all those require 7 votes. Thank you, Your Honor.
okay, thank you. Yes, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Thank you for having me here. Yes, this is a purchase with our DCO funds. We got, I believe it was end of last year, $3 million. We're using, part of that funds was $375 for community awareness. As you very well know, traffic safety is a high priority for us here in the city. We get numerous requests for trailers and these the speed trailers and the portable pole mount radars, and this is just to continue to support those efforts in our traffic division who constantly are being requested of those, and we have to, with our limited source that we have now, we have to continually move them to get them in different neighborhoods. This would just add to what we have.
Any questions from council? Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Riggenbach, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Graham?
No, I just wanted to move, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like many of my colleagues around the horseshoe, speeding is probably a top 3 concern that we receive, and it's great that we're going to be buying some more via this grant. Talking to your staff, and I know you and Sergeant Hughes connect all the time, is 4 going to make the impact that you need, or do you feel that in the future we need to be forecasting of possibly even acquiring more of these to impact speeding?
Well, we'll take a look at what we get with these, right? We have a limited number of officers right now in the traffic unit, right? As we continue to our recruitment efforts and build up the team and get more officers, we may look at this again in the future and be looking at probably purchasing a few more if needed. But at this point, I think it'll get us where we need to be.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, I just had just a couple questions, and I know Officer Hughes is not here. What will this, with the purchase of these, what will that bring us up to for totals?
That's a great question. I
Okay.
think we have at least 2 speed trailers right now. This will continue to add to what we have. Yeah, but I think it's 2 that we have right now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no more questions, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk? Thank you, Chief.
23-192 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to approve the sole source annual subscription contract with Benovate, Inc., doing business as Neighborly Software. This requires a 2/3 vote of the council members voting, and I believe no less than 7 votes.
Okay, Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to let Community Development Director Doolin talk to this item.
Director?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The item before you is just renewal of a contract we have with Neighborly Software. It's the contract vendor that we use for all of our grant applications that the CDBG Public Service Commissions uses to score. It's how our nonprofits submit applications, and also when we've done different programs as utility assistance, our down payment assistance, all those programs go through this software. We originally purchased it in 2020 when we launched all of our COVID CDBG programs. And since then, we really enjoy it and like it and have shifted all of our programs to it and all of our grant scoring and all of that to it. So when the renewal came up, we had to add additional license for additional staff members to use it. So it became over the threshold that the city manager could approve. So that's why it's in front of you tonight.
Are there any questions for Director Doolin? Councilmember Valpula?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Doolin, I just have one clarification question. How many users are we looking at? Basically, you have 2 columns which says that if the users are 1 to 10, the price comes to $24,000, and then once it crosses to 11, then the price falls down to probably $600. So, can you just go over on that?
Yeah, right now we have about 8 users. It kind of depends on what programs are running at what time or when we're running them. We've 8 is probably the number where we'll be at. But if we get 3 or 4 different staff members who need to use it based on the programs, we kind of shift those licenses around. So it could go above that, but unlikely.
And the second second point I was observing was usually when we have when we buy implement one-time fees, so when you start it is $2,500, then it goes to $3,000, then it goes to $3,500. Shouldn't it be the opposite? As we continue to use it, the implementation fees should go down, right?
I think the implementation fee that's in there is when we launch a new program. So it's specific to a program increase when we add programs. It's not an implementation of the entire software. So if we launch a new program, such as when we launch down payment assistance and they have to do all the setup for that, that's when that fee comes in. It's not the total implementation of the entire software.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other questions for the Director? Is there a motion? Moved by Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
23-193 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request for the following. A is to approve an agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the city's participation in traffic signal mast arm replacements in Peoria and Canton, Illinois. And B, to approve a funding resolution for the city's cost participation in the traffic signal mast arm replacements in the amount of $18,814 plus contingencies.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask Director Powers to explain this item for you.
Director?
Mayor, Council, I'll just stand by for questions if you have any. Our standard, if you will, participation rate with IDOT, this is just a little different than you have an A and B because they requested an adoption of a resolution along with funding approval. The mast arm location, because you'll probably ask anyway, because I've already had one question, is at Spring and Adams. We did not put that in background, but it is in your attachments. And then you'll notice the Canton is noted. That's because that is the IDOT project name. There is no interlocal between us. It's just the way that IDOT named the project and bundled it together with this. So If I have any other questions, I'll stand by.
Any questions for Director Powers? Can I get a motion? Moved by Councilman Riggenbach, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Thank you, Director Powers. Motion passes unanimously. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, that was for item A. Councilman Riggenbach?
Move for item B.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Velpula. Please cast your ballots for B. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
23-194 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2023 revised annual budget to allocate $75,000 from the Downtown TIF Fund for pavement slurry seal projects for the conversion of reverse diagonal parking spaces to forward-facing diagonal parking on Fulton Street from Monroe Street to Jefferson Street, and on Monroe Street and Madison Street from Main Street to Fulton Street. This requires a 2/3 vote of corporate members voting no less than 7.
Think you're back on tap, Director Powers.
Thank you again, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I didn't realize I was back-to-back there until I sat down. You probably see some of the preparatory work taking place now on those streets where we're doing patching and so on in preparation for slurry seal. The slurry seal is being added because the parking lines that are there, if we were to simply go out and repaint lines, you would have confusion where they would look like X's and people wouldn't know to back in, pull in. So the slurry seal is going to be covering the street in order to cover the existing street. It'll be a nice treatment too. So we'll have a nice black surface to start with. Then we will come in right after that, reorient the meters, repaint the lines, and there'll be pull-in parking versus back-in parking. That is, in a very brief summary, what will take place. And we expect slurry seal to begin this fall with our standard pavement preservation. So you should see all of that take place before the end of the year.
Okay. Councilmember Graham?
Director Powers, that means no more back-in parking.
Yes, sir.
I am so glad to hear that. If I could vote 6 times on this, I would. I have had about 0 positive comments about the current regime that we have, and I think this will be a move forward. I know when we did this originally, the thinking was it might help a mother who has some children and maybe they're buying something or acquiring something, that trunk or back of the vehicle would be toward the sidewalk instead of out in the street. It was good intention. I mean, I believe it was very much well intended, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people, myself included, find that it's very difficult to back in, and it's hard to see, especially if you have a larger vehicle, how far back you can go. And so I think this is a step forward for safety, not a step backward. Thank you. Move for approval.
Okay, second by Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Kelly?
I'd like to echo Councilman Grahab's remarks and just add one of my own. Hallelujah. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. I'm happy about it as well. I consider myself a good driver, but I don't go reverse as well as I go forward. So. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to ask what type of communication mechanism we would use to indicate to the public that it is now changed, since we had so much challenge when we went this way.
That's a great question, Councilor. We will be flooding the market, if you will, on every media platform we can. It will be well signed. And again, speaking to the point that actually Councilor Gray brought up about what we were trying to accomplish with back in, those spaces are wider. So when we reorient them, we're actually just going to turn the meter. So you'll still have the width that you have now, but pull in, so that will add added safety component because there'll be more room as you're pulling in. So we will do a media blitz. We will do re-signage. We will, probably about the time you see slurry seal start, meaning our pavement preservation, you will see our communication specialist hitting TV, radio, anyone that will listen, getting anything that we can on our social media, likely try to do some on-site media work, and again, the signage will be clear. And again, nice fresh asphalt, well, black coating, if you will, and fresh lines will help tremendously.
Thank you. I may be pulling a permit to shut Fulton Street down for a party.
We're creatures of habit too, Director Powers, so if someone backs in, what will happen if they back in and park?
Well, unfortunately, that would be a violation, and the chief's sitting back here. He has parking enforcement now, but that will be a violation because you will be parking opposing traffic. If you think about it, the violation would be you're parking opposing oncoming traffic, which is a safety issue. Okay. So, and it is prohibited. So parking enforcement would address that. And they would now if you pulled in straight. So it's very similar to what you have now, just be flipped. In fact, I think the ordinance reads specific to that point of backing into a forward space and oppositely.
Okay.
So I know it'll take an adjustment, and I'm sure the chief will communicate to show some leniency as we roll into this, but I really do believe that with a fresh sealer,
sure,
if you will, with the fresh markings, the signs, the meters clearly facing you and seeing the angles as you come in, we're kind of accustomed to seeing that, to your point of being creatures of habit. If you see a pull-in space, you see it angled toward you, I think it'll pop enough that you should be able to pick up on you can pull in.
Thank you.
And if we have to, we'll sign it accordingly.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Director. Madam Clerk?
23-195 is a communication from the City Manager and Assistant City Manager with a request to adopt an ordinance approving the redevelopment agreement with Oculus Development LLC for 801 Southwest Washington Street, 800 Southwest Washington Street, to develop 176 residential units in the warehouse district.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is, I think, a very welcome development that we have. Oculus Development is a developer out of Chicago with a great track record of multifamily units. They are taking the last two largest remaining warehouses in the warehouse district and proposing to put in 176 units, 95 in one and 81 in another, as well as some commercial space, some amenity space, obviously, for the tenants as well. The overall project is going to be in that $40 million range that we're looking at. What we have negotiated and worked out with them is a reimbursement of the TIF that would amount to be about 64% of the TIF increment, but it's only about 17% of their total eligible TIF expenses. So this is a layered project with historic tax credits that goes into this project, as well as the TIF incentive that gets paid out on the back end. And so the way it's structured is that the developer will receive 100% of the increment for years 4 through 6 of the development. For the first 3 years, they're going to be under construction, and so the taxes won't be paid at a higher level. And then in years 7 through 9, it'll be 65%, and then back to the standard 50-50 agreement after that. The one other clause that we have in the agreement that's a little different is parking and how we're handling parking. And as you know, we have been acquiring properties along Washington Street for the future construction of a parking structure in that area. But we have agreed that we will demolish some of the buildings that we have just recently acquired in order to provide 95 parking spaces in the interim for Oculus, the developer, until such time as a structure can be built. So it's great news. This is a great investment. Like I said, it's the last couple of major warehouses we have. With this agreement, if council approves it, it will allow us to say that we'll have over 400 units under construction right now in the warehouse district that'll be moving forward. So pretty excited about that as well.
Great.
I think we have one slight tweak to the RDA that I want to ask our corporation counsel to just explain.
Just if the
Council Hayes?
Oh, thank you, Madam. We modified the completion date of the project to December 4th of 2025 rather than the date on the document in front of you, which is March of 2026. The developer wants to capture the full increment for 2026. So their target is to have a completed project as well as their pre-leasing starting in December of 2025. So that is the only change to the document in front of you, so we didn't copy off new documents, but that'll be the execution copy. Thank you.
Great. Sooner is better. It's very exciting. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While this is an exciting project, I know it's been in the works for some time. Just a quick question for the city manager. Where does this put us with total number of housing units downtown? I know we initially had heard there was a goal of about maybe 700, 750.
I believe that we have around, I don't have the exact number offhand. I apologize. I should have had that ready to go tonight. But between what we have in downtown and in the warehouse district, this will push us over 1,000 units. So that's something we should all be very proud of. We have created, particularly in the warehouse district, a new neighborhood. So I think that's something that we should all be very proud of.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sure. You want to?
Yes. With that, Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion that item number 23-195 be approved.
Is there seconded by Councilmember Greb? Any additional discussion? Councilmember Velpula?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a small clarification. So the legislation text says that the city will permit the developer to demolish the existing structures, whereas the packet says that city will demolish the existing structures. So there's two different things that I just wanted to make sure that I understand correctly.
Good eye.
The city is going to demolish the structures.
Okay. So here, this is.
That's we should have corrected that. So.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Okay. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, looks like we got a big one.
23-196 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request for the following. A is to accept the Greater Peoria Auto Crimes Task Force grant from the Illinois Secretary of State in the amount of $2,150,700. B, to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2023 revised annual budget relating to the general fund to recognize the receipt of funding from the Illinois Secretary of State providing the Greater Peoria Auto Crimes Task Force grant in the amount of $2,150,700. This requires a 2/3 vote of corporate members voting, no less than 7 votes. C, to approve and authorize the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peoria and the County of Peoria under the Greater Peoria Auto Crimes Task Force in the amount of $356,000 for 2 sheriff's deputies and 2 vehicles. And D, to approve and authorize the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peoria and the County of Peoria under the Greater Peoria Auto Crimes Task Force in the amount of $147,000 for the state's attorney salary. And we need separate votes on all 4 items.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to our police chief to walk through this item, and some nice to get other people's money to come in to the city. So.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Chief?
this is very exciting. I want to first present, we have the state's attorney with us, and we have a representative for the Secretary of State's office, police, who are key partners in this. If it wasn't for the state's attorney to bring this forward and get us all in the room, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you to the state's attorney. I'll probably have the state's attorney step up here shortly, but this is a great opportunity. We know that car thefts and anything related to car thefts, converters, et cetera, have been on the rise, and we needed to have a solution, a more holistic partnered solution to really get at it and work at really focused, direct focus at the stolen vehicles and our car parts, and this is exactly what this is going to do for us. But I'm going to have, if you wouldn't mind, Chris, would you come on up here and kind of give a better explanation since you've been doing this?
Thank you, everyone. My name is Chris Fulcher. I'm an investigator with the Secretary of State Police. I'll actually be one of the boots on the ground people associated with this new task force. The idea of this is a partnership, and we're kind of continuing the same model that is in the greater Chicagoland area. That task force has about 14 different participating agencies in it, so it's not new to our organization. We primarily focus on stolen vehicles, stolen vehicle parts, so this impacts everyone. I know State's Attorney Hoos probably will be able to elaborate on all of the statistics, but this county is one of the worst counties statistically, so hopefully we can partner together and begin to reduce that and see if we can also then help out the insurance industry so that people aren't having to spend so much money in that category. But we look forward to partnering with you guys, and if you have any other questions that they can't answer, I'll do my best to help you guys.
And I should mention that the Peoria County Sheriff's Office is also part of this. I think I missed that. State's Attorney, would you mind coming up to the mic? Thanks. We don't often get to see you here, so it's exciting.
I don't know if it's exciting. They may have a different word for it, but good evening, everyone. We are very excited about this project. I don't need to throw numbers at you guys. Everybody knows this is a problem. It's not just a problem in Peoria, it's a problem throughout the state, but Peoria has had a rough share of this, or a rough patch of this. So I was very excited that we were able to get this. It's something that may not be in your notes and stuff that you have, but this is hopefully a 4-year grant. So this $2.1 million roughly is just for the first year. So total, it's almost a $9 million grant that we're going to bring to the city. Yeah, a lot of money to attack a very specific issue that we have that impacts everybody, from your neighbor who gets their car stolen, to the car dealerships that get 25 of their cars stolen a night, to the lady, at the stop sign who gets carjacked with a firearm. So it encompasses all types of crimes that are related to a car, just not a stolen vehicle. Catalytic converter thefts are on the rise now too. So we wanted to bring together as many entities as we could to attack as many types of crime in this area that we could. So I also would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, State's Attorney Hoos and Investigator Chris, and everyone that's been involved in this collaboration and applying for this funding to support really the greater Peoria area. What is the parameters for the service area? It's not just the city, right?
It'll be Peoria County. But as you know, when somebody steals a car, they don't get to the county line and stop. Well, I'll walk from here.
Okay.
It does go across county lines, so which is a big reason that the Secretary of State will be involved, because of their jurisdiction is statewide. They can bring in a number of other resources statewide that we wouldn't always have access to. So its focus is Peoria County, but certainly there's going to be overlap with our neighboring jurisdictions as well.
Okay, excellent. I'm sure there's some questions, so stick around. Councilmember Graham?
Do we have any empirics on how many of these vehicles are stolen by juveniles as opposed to by adults in Peoria County?
We do. I don't have that data in front of me right now. But yeah, we do have numbers on when we do make arrests on juveniles in possession of stolen vehicles, and lately we have seen those numbers rise.
I would like to have those numbers, and also I am most interested in knowing what we're going to do about the problem of catching juveniles who are involved in this type of conduct or other violent conduct. We catch them, and then it seems like they're released to parents all too often when I read my reports every morning. And I don't know how we're going to move that far ahead if that continues to be the case, with little or no consequences for children who are doing these crimes, very serious crimes.
I can tell you that's not the state's attorney's office. That's the court system, unfortunately. We have detention hearings every day on juveniles we have people sitting in the county jail that are out there on murder for juvenile offenses. But unfortunately, we're bound to follow the law, and when we bring a case to the court, at the end of the day, if the court decides to release them, we can't go against that. So
what do we do when we have kids and they have been serial offenders and there's no room for them at the juvenile detention center?
Well, that's not true. We don't release somebody just because there's no room.
So, Chief, you never have to make any phone calls about what are we going to do with the serial offender kid who's stolen a car 3 times in 13 months, requesting, make room, please? That hasn't happened?
So the state's attorney and I have quite a few conversations on that. I think she gave a great explanation as to why they get released. I've made phone calls, and actually the state's attorney has made phone calls for me to the Juvenile Detention Center to make sure kids were held as well. I think she kind of stated it clearly. It's kind of out of our hands. It's very frustrating. Our officers continue to, they release, we arrest, release, we arrest. We just continue to do that and let them, their criminal record obviously goes up. The point system that they need to be detained continues to be in there. That can be a little frustrating.
So who needs to be in this room? Who's not present who needs to help us with this problem? Because I keep hearing, well, it's the juvenile court system. Well, who are the people running the juvenile court system?
The Administrative Office of Illinois Courts and your legislature.
So I guess we need to get their attention, don't we? Because, it's too bad when we have the state's attorney and the police superintendent who say, well, it's pretty much out of our hands. Seems to me this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and it seems to me we may have an administrative state problem here that is not tuned in with on-the-ground problems in this community. And it's causing kids to be hurt and people to be hurt in this town. And so I get, not directed to you two, but I become very weary to hear, oh, this is above us. Well, we're in the state of Illinois. There are surely people running the state of Illinois who need to know, if they don't already know, that we got a problem here in Peoria. And it's not just Peoria, as was pointed out. So I'm going to throw that out because we can have community conversations on violent crimes, and I believe car theft can be a violent crime when it's all said and done. And we have our police superintendent inveighing about little or no consequences at neighborhood meetings. So I think we need to get at the problem. And whoever needs to be involved in this discussion, I don't care where they are in the state. See, if these are nameless, faceless people, then we do have a problem. I'm just serious about it because the police department, you talk to the men and women in blue, they are exasperated catching the same kid over and over again who laughs in their faces. And then you have the sinister adults who will sometimes use kids to do these terrible crimes. That's a double crime on top of the crime.
You should have them talk to my assistants who have to sit in the courtroom and watch them walk out free when they're trying to keep them detained.
Let's do this. Let's put together a group to go down to Springfield and rattle some cages. How about that? Because we can't continue to let this happen this way. Our kids are, for all practical purposes, and it doesn't take many to turn a community upside down. They're out of control. And all you got to do is look at the reports every morning. So let's put together a task force to go to Springfield to rattle some cages over this. And I'm serious. Something has to give. It just has to give. And I think we have a great state, and I think we have a great community, but we have a lot of kids who are falling through the cracks. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you all for your your overview of the task force. It's great to see collaboration in this space. Just for those who are listening, can you just provide just a basic overview of maybe some of the proactive things the task force will be doing to prevent these crimes from happening, and then what are the reactionary efforts that happen, once someone participates in these acts, and then from the arresting them, prosecution, what is the overall holistic purview and actions of this task force, just for the person listening?
Thank you. So we plan on conducting hijacking details, recyclable metal theft details, LPR recovery operations. LPRs are license plate recognition, like mobile units, where we would essentially do like grid searches and try and locate those areas. To get more specific on it, I would tell you that the police force here is suffering from the same thing that everyone else is everywhere. They don't have enough people, they don't have enough time, so we're going to be able to afford more resources and people to be able to see the investigations from the beginning to the end, such as conducting surveillance on areas, going through the process of trying to do like GPS locate units on vehicles and see what we can catch and stop. We'll also go the distance on where, if they are cutting off the catalytic converters and then taking them to an auto parts recycler or a recyclable metal dealer, then also imposing some type of consequence on that dealer. We'll partner with other organizations too. We'll have, and these are all part of the grant requirements that I'm looking at and referring to. We'll also have specialized seminars, and we're going to try and develop some public outreach related opportunities as well to explain the consequences of this. And I will tell you that once we get more into the coordinated efforts, because that's the Illinois Statewide Idle Theft Task Force up in Chicago area. They have to deal, and I hate saying it like that, but they have to deal with Cook, which is even worse than everywhere else as far as penalties and what happens. Even with adults, there are adults with certain types of offenses that don't get taken into custody up there. It's a cite and release kind of situation. So I promise you're echoing what we talk about, and the Secretary of State's a different branch of government. But as they do commit these offenses, it does increase the penalty behind the offenses. It's no longer looking at it as a one vehicle situation. It could be a multiple vehicle situation, and then that can allow the state's attorney to impose a little bit more. But yes, we still end up with the judicial process of where the judge has to consider everything, and takes it a lot out of our hands. But does that kind of give you an idea then, Councilman, of the...
Yes, it does. And I'm just excited for the collaboration, and hopefully we can address this issue. And later on down the line, we won't need these type of task force, but it's something that we need to address to make our community safe. So thank you all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Vespa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do want to say that I do agree with what the state's attorney said. They can only do so much as the courts will let them and what the law allows, but isn't it also true that we have home rule powers, and as long as something's not specifically preempted by state statute, then we can pass it here, which can include jail time up to 6 months. I believe that's the law. I think it's Jaron. It's a 1999 decision. If this council were to pass some sort of ordinance which included jail time, would the state's attorney enforce that law?
Well, if it's an ordinance, that would not be my office. That would be the city attorney's office.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
In general, I'm very much in favor of this, but I'd like to ask a couple questions. Chief, it seems to me that as I read the reports, we do a fairly good job on the backside of these crimes. When there's a stolen car, it seems like half of them are involved in accidents, but others are found, the license plates are known, et cetera. Are there a lot of these things where they're just unsolved?
Well, yeah, we recover quite a few vehicles, but that doesn't mean we're able to charge all the time, right? We need somebody to work that case from the beginning to the end. There's other technologies in the vehicle that the task force is able to, without giving out trade secrets, trace back, figure out routes where vehicles went, then be able to go back and look at technology in that same area, such as cameras, LPRs, et cetera. And when we're talking about converter thefts, you just recently saw it, right? The school buses that were, the converters that were taken from all those school buses, we need somebody to be able to follow up and see where those converters may have gone and be able to trace that as well. So there is quite a bit of work that has to happen behind the scenes, even when you just recover a vehicle.
I understand that, and my question, I wasn't clear enough in my question. I'm speaking pretty strictly of car theft, okay, not converter theft, et cetera. But my impression has been that we get the perpetrators most of the time, or a lot of the time.
We get some perpetrators. I can't give you an exact number right now. I'd have to pull that data. I don't have that with me as to the amount of stolen vehicles and how many people have been charged with a stolen vehicle as well.
Okay. I just, I'm going to vote for this, but I'm not sure how much good it's going to do. Okay. Secondly, another party to all this, other than public safety and the public, are the insurance companies. Has anybody talked with insurance companies to kick in on things like this, because it would benefit them as well?
So that's actually, I'm a member of the state council, the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Council, although it just changed its name to the Aggravated Vehicular Hijacking Motor Vehicle Theft Council. I don't know, too many words in it. I can't pronounce it, and I'm on the committee, or on the group. That is funded by insurance policies. So for every car insurance policy you have, there's $1 of that goes to this fund. To give you way too much information on this, when we had the budget impasse a few years back, there used to be, Peoria used to have a division similar to this. It was called SLATE. But a few years back when we had the budget impasse, the state budget impasse, they eliminated that division. Well, nobody realized, of course, Illinois, that the car insurance companies continued to collect that dollar fee. So there was this big pot of money that someone finally realized, hey, we need to get this Motor Vehicle Theft Council back in place and resurrect these things. And I've been a member of that since I became the state's attorney in 2019. That's the funding that has led to us being able to do this. That and some additional funding that the legislature put in last year solely for aggravated vehicular hijacking and things like that. So to answer your question, that was a very long-winded answer, but the answer is yes. Those, we meet with them regularly and get their input as to, what do they see on their end. That's where having the Secretary of State Police will help, because the technology they have, there are special databases with the insurance companies to help track vehicles and, help us get to where we need to go.
Thank you very much.
Do you want
to? If you don't mind. So the National Insurance Crime Bureau is a member of, will be a prospective member of this task force. They will also have a boots on the ground impact here, and they'll be able to afford us more resources, and that doesn't cost you guys anything. That comes into play with federal grants, things there to participate in. I can glean a little bit of the statistics, and this is by no means a reflection of Peoria PD, but you have to think about motor vehicle theft just in and of itself, not a hijacking situation where a vehicle is taken by force. That's considered a property crime. So historically, it's changed over time. Crime happens in cycles, so what is important isn't necessarily getting all the resources that it should, like as it relates to a property crime. So it's difficult for local law enforcement to dedicate the resources that are going to need to be done just for a simple vehicle theft. I would tell you that the state statistic for just stolen vehicles alone, not vehicle hijacking, it's usually around 37% close rate on arrests for offense. So I'm sure it's probably close to that, just in this community. And then another factor related to the insurance, 10% of motor vehicle theft ends up being insurance fraud. So that's also another leg in there that we are involved with, that we follow up on and look at. I understand your aspect of it with how you feel like not a lot will change, but I will tell you, like, having seen it on my side, it does help and impact both the industry as a whole, the automotive industry, and then what stressors there are on local law enforcement in and of itself, because they're able to dedicate more time to other crimes because someone else is here helping them with it and affording more resources.
Are these further people part of the police department, or are there any further people on the police department that are, I mean, we can't fill out our budgeted personnel in the police department at the moment. Hate to be a real wet blanket here, but
So we have one detective currently assigned now to vehicle thefts. That detective will be part of this task force. So we're not adding anything. It will just be moved into this task force. And then the sheriff's office will be providing one detective as well.
And the other personnel that you're talking about, you're confident you can staff up?
Yes, from our aspect, for sure.
Okay.
We'll have individuals, we'll also have civilian support staff that'll have specific tasks that will contribute to the overall mission. But yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Did you want to finish that?
I just was saying about the staff, so not only a dedicated Peoria police officer, a dedicated sheriff's office, secretary of state, but also a dedicated assistant state's attorney too.
Oh, good. Corporation Counsel Hayes.
Thank you. I have a housekeeping matter for this item and the next one. Unfortunately, a few of these agreements didn't make the council packets, nor did it get posted, so we would ask the council's indulgence of deferring item C and D on this item, and then item C on the next item that's up. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Graham?
Yes, Manager Urick and Corporation Counsel Hayes, my colleague, who's wise in all ways, Councilman Vespa, brought up, I think, an excellent item for research. Would it be possible that the council could get a report back on what home rule authority we might have to tighten things up a bit compared to other communities in our state using our home rule authority?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
And certainly appreciate the discussion tonight and the additional resources to tackle these problems. Sometimes I feel, as my colleagues do, that we're sitting here in a rather rarefied antiseptic chamber, but we know that when we get out in the neighborhoods, there are some things that are happening that are distressing all of our constituents, and I think this was a step forward tonight, and certainly with these resources. And thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have to echo what Councilmember Graham says, and this is money well spent. It's going to really help us, but until we get to the root cause of the problem and begin to address these issues that our young people are dealing with, we will continue this cycle, and you know that, Chief. And so that's kind of where my heart is. You know, I would like to see much more towards the prevention area. You know, we mandate when people arrest folks for drugs and multiple times, and they're sent to jail. Well, you know, sometimes they're mandated to go to substance abuse classes. So there's got to be a way, I hope, that we can, after we got an opportunity to do some research, to find out if maybe we can come up with some sort of policy whereby we can make sure that our youthful offenders are getting the help that they need. Because we all know if they don't, we'll continue this cycle well into adulthood. So my prayer and hope, Mayor, is that this is not money that will be wasted in the long run. And if we could catch these, studies show that when youthful offenders get help, the recidivism rate decreases. And so we want to try to get them the help they need while they're young and hopefully get them on the path to becoming productive citizens and not criminal offenders well into their adulthood. So I hope this is the beginning, as the Councilman Graham says, towards what we hope can be a net that's cast wide in terms of addressing this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would first ask for a motion to defer C and D until our next meeting, which is June the 13th. Moved by Councilman Graham, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. And can we then get a motion to approve item A? Moved by Councilmember Velpula, seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Velpula? Can you move for B? Okay. Oh, sorry, it's on now.
I move to approve the item number B.
Seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Right, okay. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your leadership on this. Madam Clerk?
23-197 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request for the following. A, accept the co-responder unit grant from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority in the amount of $3,068,000. B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2023 revised annual budget relating to the general fund to recognize the receipt of grant funding from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority for the co-responder unit in the amount of $3,068,000. And this item requires a 2/3 vote of corporate members voting no less than 7 votes. And C, approve and authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding between the City of Peoria and Carle Health Services under the co-responder unit for a 6-month period in the amount of $486,802.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn the floor back over to the chief, and as we mentioned, item C will have to be deferred until the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Chief?
Thank you. Again, this has been long coming. December of 2021, I approached State Representative Jahan Gordon Boot with this idea. Thankfully, she listened to the new chief and thought it'd be good to push this along with me. And here we are, May of 2023. May of 22, the governor signed the legislation. There's been a lot of work. Dr. Booth is in the building today. Formerly Unity Point, now Carl Held, Dr. Knapp, and Camden have been phenomenal. Monica Hendrickson from the Department of Public Health. I just want to mention these people have been instrumental in helping us get to where we are right now. Jenny Orgaza, our grant manager, has tirelessly worked at one budget and then having to go back with a whole new budget. And here we are today. It is very exciting to be able to accept this and be able to move forward. Yes, there's some vehicles here we'll be asking for here right off of this grant, but to give you an overview, the Wisconsin Resource Center will become the social services unit for the Peoria Police Department. We are partnered with Carl Held. We thought we would have the MOU completed, so we apologize. It's been a kind of a back and forth. But we have job descriptions. We'll be hiring 8 social workers, licensed clinical social workers to work out of that building, along with a director, an analyst, an administrative assistant. There'll be interns there. That director will report directly to the chief of police. There will be no red tape in between it, with a budget to be able to immediately impact families in the moment when it's needed, and then being able to use our community relations crime prevention manager, Mary Peterson, who will, through IRIS, be able to continue and work with the social workers to refer when we need to refer. But we'll be able to really, boots on ground, a response to have social workers on calls when needed, following up case management, all our juvenile cases and anything related to victim crimes that we have, specifically domestics, or anytime there's a victim that we need to just get in there and provide some services, we could be able to do that.
Thank you. This is another huge opportunity. I want to congratulate you, Chief, on your work with the representative and her leadership in advocating for the funding for Peoria, being one of the 5 pilot?
3.
3.
I believe, yes.
Three pilot areas within the entire state of Illinois. So.
Yes, thank you.
It's another opportunity, another great opportunity to reduce crime in Peoria. Councilmember Regenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to commend the chief and thank Representative Gordon Booth for her leadership in getting this to fruition. We talk a lot about what can we do for our young people, what can we do about so many of these issues that we know there's a mental health component to. So I think this is really thinking outside the box. We all know the policing has been under the microscope these last couple years, and this is really, I think, a creative step to take it to the level that will address some of those root problems that we constantly talk about. And I'm not the clinician that is an expert in that field, but I talk to constituents on a daily basis who experience related issues to this. So I think this is I'm really proud that Peoria can be one of those pilot cities in moving this forward. And as the 3rd District Councilman, I can't let the fact that we're repurposing that Wisconsin storefront at the plaza into such a creative reuse as well. So I think this is going to be a win for our community at many levels. And Dr. Booth, thank you for being here and the continued leadership you have in this cause as well. So with that, I would be happy to move for approval.
Okay, that's an approval for item A.
Yes.
Seconded by Councilmember Valpula. Any additional discussion? Councilmember Gordon Young?
I just wanted to take a second to thank you all for the work that you've done. I've watched this very closely, being a mental health professional myself, and also seeing the people who sometimes fall through the gap and they're arrested when they really need treatment. And I think it not only will save lives, but it will improve the morale of the family. It just really creates a ripple effect. So again, I want to thank you all and congratulate you on a great job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Grayett.
Chief, I don't want to get too granular, but these are going to be licensed social workers that will be going to scenes of action with the police. Is that correct?
Yes, licensed clinical social workers.
Licensed clinical social workers. Are they under the supervision of the Peoria Police Department?
Yes, we're going to contract with Carl Health, but they'll be under our supervision. Then obviously there's some supervision from Carl Health because we're paying Carl Health to have them. But yes, there'll be direct supervision from the police department. We'll have a director that will oversee that as well.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. I want to also acknowledge Dr. Booth. I know this has been your life work, helping youth and helping families for many, many years, so it's great to see your involvement here. Councilmember Vespa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd also like to thank everyone involved, Dr. Booth, Representative Gordon Young, and the chief here. And I certainly echo what Councilmember Gordon Young said. This could save lives very easily. I think when someone's having a mental health episode, the odds of the encounter going bad, there being a bad outcome for either party is much higher. So having a licensed social worker responding with the police or responding even in place of the police, which frees up, police time to go handle more, possibly more violent episodes, is a good thing. It's a good thing all around. And so I just want to congratulate everyone. I'm thrilled that we're here, and I look forward to seeing the good results. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor in a second. If there's no more comments or questions, please cast your ballots for item A. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Riggenbach?
Move for approval of item B.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Riggenbach, can you defer C?
And I would move to defer item C.
Seconded by Councilmember Euler. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. I know there's a lot of police items on the agenda tonight, but they all seem to complement. They're all
together.
Interrelated. Madam Clerk?
23-198 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request to approve the purchase of a quick response vehicle in the amount of $138,651 through a cooperative purchase from McQueen Emergency for Peoria Police Department SWAT responses and co-medical responses.
Chief?
Yes, thank you again. I don't know. There's something that our fire department here in Peoria has that most departments don't have, and it's tactical medics, and they're part of our SWAT team. There's many cities that don't have this, and we're very fortunate here in Peoria to be able to have that. And in having that, this is a vehicle directly related to our SWAT medics, and I think I'll let the fire chief, because this has been a partnership with him, speak on that.
Chief Solberger. Good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Echeverria and I know, kind of walked into this space that was already founded. I have to tip my hat to Chief Tony Artis. He was integral role in getting our paramedics into this status. So when SRT, which it was originally called, now is referred to as SWAT, we provide 2 tactical medics if we're going into a hot zone or barricaded subject. These are high risk situations, and we're very proud to be able to stand by RPD and be able to respond and provide that level of service in these type of critical situations. That being said, this purchase right here tonight with these grant funds allows us to properly get our tactical medics to the scene. Currently, right now, we use a used Ford Expedition. It's not properly serving our TAC medics to be able to store their medical equipment, store their vests, and get to the scene properly. So that's what this purchase would be for.
Thank you. And how was this grant secured? Was that through the grants office writing the grant?
Oh, the co-response grant?
Oh, okay, it's still the same.
Co-response.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve, moved by Councilman Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
23-199 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request to approve the purchase of 2 crisis intervention vehicles from McQueen Emergency in the amount of $564,934.
Chief?
Yes, so these crisis intervention vehicles, just to put it very simply, are like mobile offices. If we are at a scene, right now we currently have a very old RV that oftentimes doesn't start and doesn't want to move, and it's very hard to navigate with one big RV when we want to get into a neighborhood. Oftentimes when we are dealing with a victim, we have to put them somewhere to speak to them, and we put them in the back seat of a squad car. We want to be able to deal with victims differently, make them feel a little bit more respect and empathy, and we want to be able to put them somewhere that's not the back of a squad car. We have one that's kind of a bigger open area. Another one has an office in it in another area. They're more mobile. If we have a negotiator that needs to continue to deal with a suspect and we bring victims out, we can bring a victim inside the van where there's some more dignity. They're not out in the street. They're not out in the back of a squad car while somebody is videotaping them. We can move them to another location and be able to talk to them and get them the help that they need. So, and not just in one of those scenes, if we have something in the neighborhood where we need to go talk to some other victims somewhere or provide some resources, this offers that opportunity as well.
Any questions for the chief? Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Velpula, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Madam Clerk?
We are at unfinished business. We do not have any items, so then we'll go on to new business.
New business. Any new business? Councilmember Graham?
Thank you, Mayor Lee. On Monday, Memorial Day, May 29, at the Gateway Building, beginning at 10:30 a.m., we'll have this community's annual Memorial Day observance. Most of our city council members will be attending, as well as members of our local veterans groups, as well as invitations to the public in general to attend. We're hoping for good weather. We will also have the placement of the wreaths to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Memorial Day is a singular day in the year that we dedicate to those who have fallen in the line of duty in service to this country. Now, the Honorable Federal Judge James E. Shadid and our retired United States Air Force Brigadier General William Robbie Robertson will be co-speakers on Memorial Day, May 29. We invite the public to attend, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilman Gray, for your leadership role in that initiative on Monday. Thank you very much. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I had about 3 items. I just wanted to mention And I'll start with the first one, continuing on the topic of crime, especially as it relates to juveniles. Well, I am encouraged, I will say, after hearing about more tools that we've approved tonight that will be a part of our arsenal. But I must say, Mayor, I'm just a little concerned as we approach the summer with the numbers of young people that, we know that kind of wander around and things of that nature. I had asked the Corporation Council about the city's policy with regards to curfew. And I know you said you were making some changes, sir. Is that something you want to wait and talk about at the next meeting? Or I don't want you to, if you're not prepared to share that, I'm more than happy to wait.
To share what I know today. We have had a period of about 2.5 years where our enforcement, particularly to your direct question about curfews in juvenile, where our enforcement has fallen off dramatically. Talked to a number of staff members who were here at the city during that period of time. They attributed to the, reduction of activity during COVID, and then the habits or the frequency with which we used to cite juveniles for curfew violations has not picked back up. Spoke with Chief Dixon, Assistant Chief Dixon today about their plans going forward into the summer to improve those enforcement activities and address some of the collective activity that's going on in our downtown footprint and throughout our city with that tool and other tools. Would like to report back after we've had time to put together some of those connecting tools. We do have some anti-chaos mechanisms that are fairly effective. That includes the ability for impounding of vehicles and things like that. And so we'll be looking to reinvigorate our enforcement activities with those tools and perhaps improving some of those tools. And I apologize to you, we're not able to prepare those recommendations from staff for tonight's meeting, but we anticipate that at the meeting in the first meeting in June, that we'll have some of those improved tools. And in the meantime, we'll be deploying the tools we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. My second item has to deal with pop-up memorials. And I know I had a meeting most recently with the mayor and the city manager and the community development director. We have an abundance of these pop-up memorials for accident and crime victims all around the city and in neighborhoods, particularly in the First District. And I will say first and foremost, it's only adequate and appropriate that families take time to remember loved ones who have passed on, especially those who have been killed violently. That's the appropriate thing to do. But we do have a city policy that sets limitations on time for how long people can place memorials at locations. And I would like to see if we could ask the Public Works Director to talk a little bit about our policy and moving forward, if there's some way we can make plans to remove these memorials and candles and teddy bears because I've been working with the students and we went out last summer to pick up litter, and we found a memorial that I know had to be up over by Allen Academy. It's been up, well, it went up under my predecessor's tenure, but it was still there. There were broken candles, and it was just a large memorial, but I ended up removing it. So what we have noticed is that families rarely come back and pick them up, and at some point it becomes a form of litter. Director Powers, if you could just talk to us a little bit about how we can handle this situation moving forward. And I felt it necessary to talk a little bit publicly about it tonight because I'm really not sure that people in the community are aware of the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'd be more than happy to speak to it. It's hard to put a word on, I would say even the policy to work. Empathy, sympathy. Actually, the way I wrote the policy was compassionate, to the point that it is truly a violation of Chapter 26 of the ordinance. But it's not uncommon to drive anywhere on any road in any city or even an interstate and not find some symbol where someone is in mourning over the loss of a loved one. And that's where we tried to cross that point of understanding. One, we seldom know who actually owns material that's in the right-of-way that is quite clearly not supposed to be there. But the ordinance provides that I'm supposed to provide written notice to the owner, which I can't find because, again, it's multiple people that have placed the objects there, and then after 10 days remove it after giving them notice. So with that in mind, our approach has been anyone, the city council, you as a member, or anyone in the public, when we get notice that the condition exists, we start the calendar, and 10 days later remove it. So to your very point, once we know that's the policy and we're able to at least explain to someone why we have it. In fact, we have several pieces, or I would say memorabilia, at Public Works now that's been removed because we don't dispose of it, because we don't know who put it there. And we've got everything from crosses to teddy bears to, again, we don't know what the emotional attachment is to those things. But we're trying to be considerate of that even when we remove it, we don't dispose of it. Unless, again, broken glass is one thing. But the material itself, we actually keep at Public Works in case someone calls and says they want it back. So that has been our approach and will continue to be our approach unless the council directs that I would go another direction. But it is a violation. And again, the one stipulation of that is obviously if it presents a danger to the motoring or pedestrian public, we remove it immediately. If it's blocking a sidewalk, for instance, and forcing someone into the street to go around it, or if it is in a roadway, then we would just take it. And if we come across that, that's what we do. If we have a storm or something blows out, we'll just send someone out and pick it up. So that, I would say, is how we're approaching it now. And with this notice in the first district, if you would like us to wait, or we could proceed immediately with removal. It's because, again, we have the authority to remove it now, and not knowing the owners, I could have police tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you, has anybody, you said you removed some in the past and you hold on to them. Does anybody ever call and ask for it back?
Hold them.
Oh, ever?
Not since I've been here. Not that I'm aware. I don't want to swear by that. I would have to check with operations, but I'm not aware of anyone claiming property.
Okay. Well, if you could, sir, instruct your crews. We have some that have been out for years. I'll put it that way. And when it rains and we've had some that have even been out in the winter. So after a while, after it rains and dries, it just becomes, it's not as attractive as it is when they initially put it out. And when you're talking about months and years, sir, it really does deteriorate.
Correct.
So if you don't mind, sir, directing your crew to at least pick them up, and if you want to hold on to them, sir, and if someone calls, then you'll know what to do.
We do. Okay. And thank you for bringing it up. We'll be on it immediately. So.
Thank you, sir.
I think, too, Councilwoman, it's important to make people aware that there are other options, for a marker to go in a certain location versus, some of the types of memories that are left.
And you're absolutely right. And I believe one that I've noticed a lot of in particular is offered through IDOT, where individuals have been killed in an accident and they've gotten the signs. And so there are options, as you said, Mayor, and we would encourage anybody, if they want to pursue permanent markers, that would be the best way to go. That way they could see their loved one's name posted and appropriately in the place they'd like it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You had something else?
No. One other item. I'm sorry. Yes, one other item. Thank you, Director Powers. And this is just in the form of an announcement. Tomorrow, the Peoria City County Health Department will be hosting at Carver Center at 5:30 a meeting for residents to discuss just a variety of concerns, needs they would like, and I'm trying to read it here. It's community gathering discussion to talk about everything, social determinants of health and conditions of the environment. So sidewalks, greenway, bus stops, everything that could either adversely impact your quality of living. Please come out tomorrow, share those needs with Peoria City County Health Department officials at George Washington Carver Center, and that will take place from 5:30 until 7:30 p.m. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Graham?
Director Powers and Manager Urick, I sent an email out yesterday. As both of you know, within the past 13, 14 years, we were the recipient of probably the biggest public works project in downstate Illinois, and that was the revamping of our 6 overpasses. Them, of course, they traverse the entire center of our city with the interstate underneath. Who's responsible for the lights that were installed, the circular, almost Star Wars style type lights that exist over those overpasses? And we have 6 of those, and I asked because, as I put in the email, I believe almost all the bulbs are burned out for the Jefferson downtown overpass. We all know how important lighting is for our community, and I don't think it's our bailiwick to replace those bulbs. If it is, I'm glad to hear that, but I don't believe it is. Could you help us on that?
You are correct, Counselor. It is IDOT, and we have contacted them, and we got a response today. I actually have it on my phone. I'd have to read it, but it basically says as funds become available, they'll add it to their operational contract to have them replaced.
They don't have light bulbs?
Obviously, it doesn't fit into their operational contract for those type of lights.
Yes, I hear you. It is the theater of the absurd, and unfortunately, my seatmate and I have worked with IDOT before, and it can be exhausting, and that answer is exhausting. And I guarantee you, I'm going to start focusing on IDOT. And you know what? There are people who run for office who represent the same constituents that I represent and need to hear about IDOT. And I put in my email, if you can't get the matter done, I'm going to contact those state lawmakers because they have many of the same constituents that we have. And so, we need the lighting. We have a tremendous investment in these new overpasses that should serve this city for generations to come. And it's a shame to get such a bureaucratic, ignorant response. But I understand what you're dealing with, Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Manager, let's have a follow-up discussion with IDOT to try to address this. Okay, thank you. Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to add to Councilman Grahab's comments that we also have the lights underneath the overpass addressed as well. It's especially noticeable when you're taking Washington Street, getting onto 74, and of probably 40 lights there, maybe 4 of them work, and we're sending cars into a tunnel without working lights, and it's gotten a whole lot more noticeable. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to handle this diplomatically. I think that IDOT has also been very good to the city, and we've got a lot of progress made with them over this past year, and some expectations going forward. So let's definitely work with them and try to get things done in a positive way. I wanted to remind everyone the city sent out a reminder to property owners to maintain their yards this spring and summer. We're getting some sunshine and grass is growing, but those with tall grass and weeds will be ticketed. Warning notices are going out. Warning notices are posted to occupied homes and businesses, and the notices give property owners 6 days to mow the grass and to remove any tall weeds. Vacant lots, vacant homes, and vacant commercial properties are not given warning notices. However, code enforcements will write tickets to property owners at their discretion. When writing tickets for tall grass and weeds, code enforcement inspectors consider the severity of the violation and how frequently they visit the property. Grass that is not mowed within 6 days of receiving a warning notice will be mowed by a city contractor. The city bills the property owner for the cost of paying a contractor to mow their property, plus a $125 administration fee. So I just want to encourage everyone to avoid the tickets and the work order fees. Make a plan to mow at least once a week throughout the spring and summer months, and sign up online to receive texts and email notifications when code enforcement visits your property. If anybody wants to actually report tall grass and weeds, they can contact Peoria Cares.
Mayor, could I?
Director Powers?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. We, just this week, I actually had some photographs that were very distressing, just to the point of mowing. Unfortunately, there's some people that are mowing, and the clippings are going into the street. Not just a street, but our combined sewer overflow efforts on year one were completely covered, meaning permeable pavers, clippings that are in the gutters, and you look downstream in the gutter and it's going right into a rain garden, meaning it's going to plug it. The entire purpose of us reaching the consent decree and going into this effort that we have over the next 18 years is to attempt to keep stormwater retained in areas that they are in and not make it to the Illinois River, and to treat it accordingly. And we're investing a great deal, north of $100 million, as you know, over the next 18 years to do that. And it was disheartening to see the work and the labor that we put into the first year's effort was absolutely covered by grass clippings. So not just mow your grass, please collect your clippings. Please mow toward your yard. The street is not the place for clippings to go. And it's not likely that we'll get there with the street sweeper, although we do. We sweep on a regular cycle, but that is not the intent. And it is a violation. Again, I don't want to stress the carrot and the stick here. The bottom line is it's pretty obvious when you look at the street design that it's made to take water. And if you cover it, it will not take water. And it defeats the entire purpose of what we're trying to do for the environment. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you for that additional commentary. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do want to promote an event that's occurring in District 4 at Expo Gardens on Saturday, June 10th. The Illinois EPA is sponsoring a household hazardous waste collection event from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You do need to make an appointment to register, and you can do that through the PeoriaCounty.org website. And they'll be accepting everything from hobby paints and chemicals, old gasoline, antifreeze. And when you go to the website, it'll show what we're not going to be accepting as well, too. So as you're doing spring cleaning and cleaning out your garage, you may have some things that you want to get rid of. And so this is a good opportunity to do that on behalf of the County of Peoria and the Illinois EPA. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson?
Just a quick question for Director Powers. You were talking about grass clippings. Should the city contractors be clearing them up too?
Yes, they should, Counselor.
Okay.
Yes, they should not be.
That's one of my pet
directing or
peeves.
executing. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
You're welcome. The last reminder that I have is to remind everyone that the city kicks off its strategic planning process next Thursday and Friday, June 1st and the 2nd. We have over 325 people that have community stakeholders that have signed up for that kickoff process. Of course, strategic planning doesn't happen in just 2 days. It's going to be a 4 to 5 month process for us, but this is our kickoff event, and we want to encourage everyone that there's still time to sign up online through 5 o'clock this Friday. So, any other items? Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Maybe I misunderstood. I thought we were involved automatically in the strategic planning.
That was for, I was making that announcement to the public.
Okay. We're in, okay.
Yeah, we're hoping that all the council will actually be there, not to so much be involved in the discussions, but to be there as a listening, as resource, perhaps, going from one discussion to another, just to lend your ear. Yes. But we certainly want to recognize all the council members. The consultant will be there. I think they'll have 3 individuals from the consultant organization that will be there, but the consultants will also be meeting with the council exclusively, as well as the stakeholders.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other clarifications on that needed? Councilmember Grant?
Yes. Since we're talking basically repeat morning and afternoon on the 1st and then the 2nd of June, should we have some understanding that each of those sessions is covered by at least one council member? Or
you can actually move around.
Okay.
So there's a morning session on a Thursday, morning on a Friday. So the person that's a morning is expected to be morning both days, and then the afternoons both days. So you choose a morning or afternoon option, but you wouldn't need to go to both.
I got you. I just want to be sure that there's at least one council
That there's
member.
representation.
Yeah.
And there will be staff as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council, and we do not have any cards. However, at the beginning of last week, my office did receive several letters from citizens addressed to the Council. Those letters were forwarded to you on the same day by email, and hard copies were provided in the packets last Friday. They will be placed on file in the clerk's office and made available to the public. The letters received specifically for tonight's meeting, however, are from the following, and I will also just give a brief synopsis of what they are. The first one was from S. Rich, and it was regarding compensation for the Peoria Public Library employees. S. Legaspi for fair contracts for the Peoria Public Library employees. Jonathan Voda, fair compensation for the Peoria Public Library employees. Matthew Sims, compensation for the Peoria Public Library employees. There is a concerned citizen regarding the fair contract with better living wages for the Peoria Public Library employees. And then finally, Noah Palm, fair contract and compensation for the Peoria Public Library employees. And again, those will be in my office on file, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we do not have an executive session.
Yeah, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn, moved by Councilmember Euler, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you for your service.